And now to our first conversation. Well, according to the 2023 Africa Wealth Report compiled by Henley and Partners, Nigeria, Africa's largest economy, experienced negative millionaire growth of 30% from 2012 to 2022, resulting in 2,949 individuals losing their millionaire status in 1 decade. Well, Troy Henley, now Managing Director, Henley and Partners, UK Nigeria, joins me via Zoom. Great to have you on the show, Troy.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, so I'm hoping I didn't lose my millionaire status. That's if I had one before now. But this is quite a big number, 2,949 millionaires losing that status in about 10 years. How big is this number?
Yeah, I mean, it is significant. I will admit that. And I think this comes down to a large number of factors. Some local, there are some local pressures on economies like Nigeria that is leading to a decrease in high net worth individuals, but some are global as well. You know, if you look at things that are happening with the invasion of Ukraine, COVID-19 lockdowns, these are affecting wealth numbers across the world. So it is a global problem too.
So being a global problem, you know, seeing this number drop in Nigeria alone, what does this tell us?
Well, I think if you pull it back to the factors that affect the growth of wealth in a country, which is quite closely related to the growth in the high net worth individuals, it comes down to things like safety and security, the legitimacy and the of the business environment, and the legal structures that are in place to protect investment and business. So the suggestion is that perhaps some of these things are lacking. Perhaps there is a little bit of loss of faith in the system in that regard. And I mean, worst case scenario, there's flight of capital. It's actually people who choose to take their business and their capital out of the country. And that's kind of the worst result for a country like Nigeria.
Yeah, and 30% drop. How are we doing compared to our African peers?
So the recent trends over the past few years, and actually what we project in the next few years, the next decade, let's say, is that Nigeria's growth in high net worth individuals will be a little bit slower than the rest of the continent. For the African continent, over the next decade, we see an increase of 42% in the number of high net worth individuals. Nigeria will have an increase of 25%, which is still significant given that there are roughly 10,000 high net worth individuals in Nigeria already. But there's other pockets within Africa we see great potential for very big growth.
And since 2022, globally, central bankers have been battling inflation, you know, trying to, rein in inflation with rate hikes. We've seen rate hikes at astonishing amounts in 2023. But how much of that has played into what we're seeing in Nigeria with about 3,000 people losing that status? And how does currency devaluation play into that mix?
Yeah. Just going back to what I said, I think some of the challenges like inflation are a global issue, and it's hurting people across the globe. It's really squeezing the wealth of even the middle class, but particularly the upper class as well. Just the cost of living is going up. The cost of running a business is going up, so margins are squeezed, and that leaves a lot less to be able to take home. Salaries can't be increased, etc. So I think this is something that the global economy is going to have to deal with over the next few years, and it's something that is affecting West Africa, Nigeria, no doubt.
And according to the report, it says Africa's big 5 wealth markets, that includes South Africa, Egypt, Nigeria, Kenya, and Morocco. Together, they account for about 56% of Africa's high net worth individuals and over 90% of the continent's billionaires. And we have about 54 countries in Africa. That's quite a small number, isn't it?
Well, globally speaking, I guess you could say that it is relatively a smaller number than for the likes of the United States and China, where you have a seriously large number of billionaires. But the promising part of this whole story, where we see the silver lining, is that the growth potential is bigger than North America. It's bigger than Asia, and that comes down to the development that Africa will go through, the middle class that will hopefully grow here, and the young demographic you have here in Africa. I mean, the potential is huge.
And looking at the report now, how is the wealth categories split, the big 5 countries in Africa?
The wealth categories split. I mean, we generally are looking at billionaires, US dollar billionaires. We're looking at centimillionaires, which is, by the way, another report that Henley and Partners puts out, the centimillionaire report. That's for people over 100 million US dollars. And then we're looking at millionaires below that. That's generally the categories we divide them into.
And we see a promising one there, Rwanda. That was top performing market in Africa with millionaire growth of about 72%. What are they doing right?
Yeah, there is some stories like Rwanda, the DRC as well. There's countries like this that you can bring that back to having particular sectors in those countries that are expected to do well. And in the case of the DRC, for example, they have natural resources that they're really going to boost this sector, and it's going to lead to a lot of wealth being made.
And definitely, these reports do help, should help, policymakers in some way. How do you think we can use this to, determine what next? Because we have a new government coming in. What can we do to reverse this trend that we saw of 3,000, Nigerians losing that millionaire status?
Mm-hmm. I think the first reason why this report is useful is that the number of high net worth individuals is quite closely correlated with GDP growth. And so GDP growth as a statistic in itself is not that reliable to understand how an economy is growing. So if we can see the high net worth numbers increasing, we can be confident that a country like Nigeria is getting into better economic health. And yeah, pulling it back to those factors I mentioned at the start, it is all based around the safety and security that a business person and investor feels, the protections they have over their investments and their businesses. These sorts of things is going to, make sure that the wealth is retained in Nigeria, that businesses are started in Nigeria, people are employed. That's the story that needs to be told here. Yeah.
That's the story that needs to be told. All right, thank you so much. That was Troy Henley, Managing Director, Henley and Partners, UK, Nigeria. Thank you for that report, and I hope the number goes up for the next 10 years.
Likewise.